All right, trying to wake up here. It's early in the morning. I'm shooting some videos here for the Grunberg slope. So this is hole number 8. It's a par 4 in the Grunberg slopes. And what we're going to be doing with our upper developed stuff is we really have a opportunity to drive the green, but with lower developed clubs, and I'm in my 99 account, so I have nothing higher than T4 clubs. And my T4 clubs even are like mid-level. It's amazing how fast you can raise your club levels up just playing in T4. So I'm a big fan of not being pressured by the community to go up as fast as you possibly can. I'm a big fan of staying down and playing in a tour and learning how to play these courses, really focusing on learning how to adjust for wind when you're in the lower tours. I know that the winds aren't as high in the lower tours, but if you learn how to adjust for that wind in the lower tours, a couple things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to be super successful, which means you're going to win more chests, which means you're going to get club cards faster. And number two, when you go to that next tour, all you're going to have to learn how to do is learn those new holes. You're not having to, you already know how to adjust for the wind, and you've already got up to that point as good of clubs as you can get. So you're working on that next set. So take your time when you're going up and think about how we play with rookie. With rookie, the key is stay in the fairway, because you don't have very good lower developed, I think of there's 2 tiers in your clubs. You got your top tier, driver, wood, long iron, short iron. Those are your fairway clubs. Those are the only clubs that you ever want to have to use when you've got a lower developed account. Your lower tier clubs, I call them the usual suspects. I don't normally move off of those clubs very often. And I typically, what I'm looking for in my lower tier clubs, my usual suspects, is I'm looking for distance. My wedge, what I'm looking for with a wedge is the most accurate wedge that's got the best ball guide and the most topspin. So the way I play is, as soon as I get that Firefly, that level 2 epic, that you look at the stats and you go, wow, this club blows. Once you get that club to like level 2 and it gets all that topspin, that's the club that I'm going to stick with until I get a rapier where I can, and it's going to help me get a lot of those little short chip-ins that are off the green. But on these types of holes, if you end up out here in the rough with upper developed stuff, you could easily recover with a Nirvana. So if you've got that Tour 7 Nirvana, you can recover in places that with lower developed accounts, we can't. So if we end up in rough areas with my upper developed account, I end up out here in the rough, I'm not too concerned about it. I've got clubs in my bag that can help me recover. But when you have lower developed stuff, you may not. So you need to stay fairway to fairway. So on this particular hole, with upper developed stuff, we're trying to drive the green. We're trying to get to the other side. Like there's the fairway area here and the fairway area over here. We're trying to bridge the gap and get over on the other side. But with a lower developed account, I'm not going to be able to do that. So let's see how our opponent does. They brought out a rocket. So with upper developed stuff, we're trying to get down here on this pad. And it is this is going to be a super difficult shot no matter where you're at, but we're trying to get down there because we're in a short iron range. And it definitely hits no matter where you're at. The second shot going into the green is downhill. So you're going to have to add on wind. So my opponent brings out a rocket. They're trying to pick up that distance by going forward. And I'm seeing a lot of people end up in that rough or that sand right there on that tip. I'm trying to get out here into this pad so that I have a straight in shot. Now, when you first start, you're going to love your extra mile because, you started off with that beginner driver. But there is another one in your bag called the QB. And once you get that QB to, I don't think it takes very many levels on that quarterback, and you get it to 100% accurate. And we want to get 100% accurate clubs in our bag. That means it's 1 mile per hour per ring. So it's super easy to make adjustments. So that was a 0.9 wind. So that's about 1 mile per hour. And we're just going to lay it up down there at the end of that fairway with our measly little quarterback that a lot of people discount. A lot of people are going to try and take that shot and lay up there with their extra mile. And the deal is that extra miles aren't very accurate. You don't have very much ball guide. So my quarterback's a lot better club for that type of shot. Don't discount. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. My opponent's in the rough. They got a level 4 machete and they can't get up. And I can tell you that shot from down there, so if you've got upper developed clubs, you're trying to get down into that area. It is a super tough shot to try and get back on track. So we can't make any mistakes with lower developed clubs. We've got to get to an area, safely land in the fairway, go towards the green. This hole right here, the minimum score on this hole is a birdie. We're trying to pick up the eagle, but our minimum score that we're looking for is a birdie. And so we've got to keep that in mind when you're out here. We want to try and get this eagle, but we can't try and get this eagle at the expense of and I'm going to pause right here. We can't do it at the expense of our birdie. So this Saturn at level 7 is 2 miles per hour per ring. So with a 4.5 wind, that's a full 2 rings, and then that would be 2 1/4. I'm going to add on a little bit. I think I added on about 10% here, so I'm going to move it like 2.5 rings. And as far downhill as that is it's probably going to be more in the 20%, but it's going to depend on where you land. So if you're up here at the top, you may do a 20%, but if you get down to the area that we're trying to get with, and that 10% was probably pretty close from up there. But if you're down into this area and you're trying to actually get down here into your short iron range, that number is going to be different. So depending on where your landing zone is, there will be a wind adjustment coming to the cup. Let's see if my opponent can get on from there. They did not adjust out the wind, so they're going to they should end up way to the right. So you come to a nice little easy hole like this and end up with a par, and the minimum score is birdie. So when I come on these holes with any of my accounts, I look at the hole and I go, okay, the minimum score on this hole is a birdie. So no matter what, I've got to get a birdie on this hole. And then I try and figure out what's the best way for me to try and pick up that shot to get an eagle. All right, that was Grunberg Slopes, hole 8, par 4. Low level stuff, getting the birdie. Thanks for watching.